Hi, my name is Colin Inslee, and this is my video submission for assignment 2.1 in CSC 225, instructed by Dr. Jason James. The purpose of this video is to briefly evaluate a documented data breach from a postmortem perspective, and I chose to research a data leak that headlined in 2009 and involved a former company named RockYou. The incident resulted in 32 million plain text user records being leaked to the internet. Interestingly, the hacker involved was not financially motivated, but we'll touch on that. The RockYou leak is still relevant today and serves as a reminder of how not to handle data as it pertains to user privacy. So what was RockYou? RockYou Incorporated was an advertising and marketing company that entered the communications sector in early January 2006. RockYou's primary business strategy involved developing and deploying widgets or third-party applications, they were typically small in size, for early social media platforms. And the growth of the company's earliest user base was due to the popularity of MySpace. And MySpace's HTML sandbox-like nature at the time made it pretty simple for users to experiment with web applications that were pretty simple. And the users actually drove a lot of the demand for RockYou's trendy intellectual properties. If you were on MySpace in the early, late 2000s and ever went to a friend's MySpace profile and heard a song playing in the background or played a little flash game on their profile, there's a good chance maybe you have used one of RockYou's properties at some point. So what happened? In 2009, RockYou's user databases were compromised, and data identifying 32 million individual user accounts was made public. The data was recovered in unencrypted plain text and was structured in such a way that linked RockYou user data to other popular vendor data. The additional vendor data included a mixture of hashed and plain text logins for other relevant websites like Facebook and Hotmail. AOL at the time was still popular. And RockYou actually initially made false statements to the public in reaction to the data leak, saying that its current user base was not affected. The company also touted its security features, according to the Federal Trade Commission, while neglecting to implement any immediate fix for the exploit or plain text malpractices. RockYou would later quietly admit that the majority of its user database had been compromised. The main exploit method was something called SQL injection. SQL, as some of you may have heard, or structured query language, was initially developed in the 1970s and offers a method for users to interact with data structures. Typically, SQL is used in the back end of web servers to provide information pathways for many different functionalities. In this case, it was for database. And SQL injection is a technique that was publicly documented and was well established by the late 1990s. Really had no business being vulnerable that way on a RockYou server. Performing SQL injection typically relies on a form object that gives the user the ability to input text, think like a search bar or some kind of search function where the user actually has the ability to input some text. This essentially gives the user the ability to interrupt the underlying SQL query if it's set up in a vulnerable way. And you can kind of see it in this presentation. So if you're looking at a form app and it just had, if you can imagine, just a simple username and password form where you would enter your username and password, the underlying SQL might look something like this, select all from a made-up table, where our made-up username looks like whatever we would enter, and the made-up password looks like whatever password we would enter. But if I know about SQL and I know that these two little comments right here, or these two little dashes, mean that the next line will be commented, and I put in admin apostrophe dash dash, essentially you're injecting this line of SQL into the underlying code that's structuring the web form, and you might be able to get away with commenting out the rest of this authentication form, like where the password says form pass. You could just log in knowing that there is a username called admin and not ever knowing the admin's password. So the RockYou.txt was a word list created after the 2009 data breach. It's a popular word list utilized by forensic analysts and black hat hackers when cracking password hashes. It's a simple text file that contains the 32 million records that were compromised in 2009. And this word list is of particular importance because it contains real username and passwords. It can be leveraged as a strong point when using brute forcing to brute force password hashes, or you could use it in conjunction with hashcat string manipulation. You could make rainbow tables with it. There are a lot of fun things you can do. One interesting thing that I learned when researching this, I actually downloaded the Rockyou.txt file. It actually comes pre-built in Kali Linux distributions. That was cool to find out. So if you've ever used Kali Linux, you can actually find it baked into the Kali Linux distribution with just a file path. But yeah, I found my old MySpace password in it using grep. So kind of fun to do. There are a few web tools that let you check it without actually downloading the password file, but then you have to put your old password in on a web form, and that's not fun. So what were the legal implications? RockYou agreed to a $250,000 settlement in 2012 in which RockYou admitted to allowing hackers to access the records of 32 million users. And this was kind of important because they admitted to allowing hackers to access the records of 32 million users. So this is more of a case of negligence. They also admitted to violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act rule in collecting data from approximately 180,000 children. And on February 13th of 2019, RockYou actually filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in the U.S. Bankruptcy Court of Southern District of New York. So thank you very much for watching. My name is Colin Hensley. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks.